our Women and Girls Wellness webinars. We ran 3 in 2024, and this is the second of 3 that we will do this year. We've just held a menopause webinar in March, and we'll also be holding a women's wellness webinar focusing on female safety this year. We want to provide a platform to share knowledge and expertise, seek to change mindsets on how women and girls can be supported throughout key life stages, and explore how we can jointly influence the system to help remove barriers preventing women and girls from being as active as they would like. We've allocated 2 hours for each event today, and today we have 2 speakers. We realised just within 2 hours we might only just scratch the surface on this topic, but hopefully you'll go away having learnt something new and have some ideas on how you might action some changes in your work to make it a bit easier for women and girls to be more active. So just before we get onto the agenda and context for today's webinar, I just have a couple of initial Slido polls for you. So as I said, if you can grab your phones, and there'll be a QR code on the next slide. Hopefully you can just open up your camera and scan the QR code. If that doesn't work, you can go through slido.com on your web browser and put in that hashtag www.May25, and it should come up, and hopefully we'll see people entering the Slido. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for you to be able to support Black females to be more active? Great, we have some people coming into the Slido. You've managed to get in. If you have any issues, please just use the chat. Thank you. That's great. Obviously, a very strong 10 here. Just give it a little bit more time. Okay, I think most people have managed to. Can you see anyone else, Kirsty and Slido? Because I can't see how many have managed to get in yet. Okay, I think most people, so that's great. A strong percentage of people finding it's very important to be able to support Black females to be more active. But moving on to the next question, how confident are you? So it should naturally open up onto your web browser. The second question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in supporting Black females to be more active? And if you've just joined, welcome, and please do put your name, role and organisation in the chat so we can see who's here today. Thank you. Okay, so we can see, yeah, there are some sort of lower scores here in terms of those confidence levels. So hopefully today there'll be some really useful insight and some tips and techniques and learning that we'll take on board today that will really help with that confidence. And we'll be asking that same question a bit later. So we really hope those confidence levels increase. Thanks, Kirsty. If you want to move on.
Did we just want to give it another minute or two? I'm just conscious there's 34
Sure, yeah.
people in the room and sort of, what is it on?
It's fine. I can't see how many are in Slido at the moment on my slides. So
well, it says 19 have responded. So yeah, if anyone's having any problems, just scan that QR code using your phone. It should pop up automatically. I'm just conscious people are still coming in the room. That's all.
No, that's fine. Thanks, Kirsty.
Okay, I'll move it on.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Kirsty. So as mentioned, we're delighted to have 2 speakers joining us today. Our first speaker, Meg Waters, is an insight manager at Women in Sport, where she leads and supports research that challenges inequality and reimagines how sport can better serve women and girls. With a background in cultural and gendered psychology, Meg brings a deep understanding of how identity, belonging and trust shape lived experience. She previously worked in the civil service and victim-led services with experience spanning policy, research and inclusive practice. Meg is passionate about using insight to amplify marginalised voices and drive systematic change, especially for girls and women navigating sport today. So welcome, Meg. Thank you for coming. Our second speaker, Tasha Thompson, British Jamaican founder of Black Girls Do Run UK, marathoner, mentor and advocate for representation in running. Tasha is a passionate runner, community leader and advocate for making sport and physical activity more inclusive and welcoming for Black women. Proudly British Jamaican, she founded Black Girls Do Run UK in 2019 to tackle the lack of representation in running and create safe, supportive spaces for women who often felt unseen in the sport. With almost 26 years of running experience and multiple marathons under her belt, Tasha leads by example, proving that running and sport are for everyone, regardless of pace, background, or starting point. So thank you. Welcome today, Tasha. Thank you for coming. For the third part of the webinar, we'll talk you through the recently released This Girl Can research and insight findings. Whilst this wasn't solely focused on Black women, they are one of the key audiences, and we thought that today would be a good opportunity to share these key messages with you. So before we hear from our speakers, we just have a few slides to provide some context on our women and girls work. A brief introduction to Get Berkshire Active in case we have any new faces today. We are the active partnership for Berkshire, one of 43 nationally. So more or less, if you were in another county, you would find the equivalent to us. We know that movement is the foundation of good health, well-being and thriving sustainable communities. But right now, movement, physical activity and sport isn't accessible to everyone in our country. We're working to change that. We want to help everyone to move more. We work with a range of partner organisations to create the conditions to support people to be more active. It's great to see some familiar faces today, and if this is the first time you've come into contact with us, welcome, and we look forward to remaining connected with you in the future. Thanks, Kirsty. And just one more, I think, slide from me. So one of the groups that Data and Insight tell us are less active and face more barriers and challenges are women and girls. And I've just picked out a handful of headline stats here, and I know Meg's going to go into this in quite a bit more detail, but 1 in 5 women exercise for less than 30 minutes a week. 1.3 million teenage girls who once considered themselves as sporty are dropping out of exercise and activity after primary school. For girls aged 12 to 14 years, 42% avoid exercise when on their period. Up to 75% of women do not meet physical activity guidelines when pregnant, with physical activity levels reported to decline during pregnancy and often remaining low postnatally. Key barriers for women going through menopause are low confidence in their ability to exercise and social withdrawal, fearing judgment and being labelled as incapable. Almost 3/4 of women in the UK change our outdoor activity routines during the winter. These statistics highlight a widespread challenge, but many organisations are actively working to break down the barriers preventing women and girls accessing regular physical activity. And we'll come on to this further with our fantastic speakers. Thank you, Kirsty. So I believe we are moving. Yeah, so over to you, Meg. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm just gonna quickly request control, but if not, feel free to just move the slides on if it's going to hold things up. Brilliant. So hello everyone, my name's Meg and I'm an insight manager at Women in Sport, and really I'm here today to talk to you about the research that I've been conducting around probably it's been the last year I think now, and it's really to try and understand or better understand the lived experiences of Black teenage girls in sport, specifically in the UK. And I just want to briefly touch on what the research involved, and it actually took multiple phases. So phase 1 involved talking to experts within Black communities, working within Black communities, as well as Black leaders in sport. And actually Tasha from Black Girls Do Run, who is here to talk to you today, was one of those experts. So thank you, Tasha. Then we moved on to phase 2, and this was actually working with Black girls more specifically within online ethnographies. This was included 32 girls altogether, followed by focus groups with the same girls, really to delve deeper into the themes that we identified. And then finally, we conducted a national representative survey, actually with a boost of 500 Black girls and boys to really help amplify and quantify the issues raised. So I'll just very quickly tell you who Women in Sport are, just in case you haven't heard of us. We were founded just over 40 years ago, actually, and really to help try and create lasting positive change for women and girls in sport and society. And what we aim to do is deeply understand the environment and culture surrounding women and girls. You know, that's challenging inequality in sport by exposing the problems, developing concepts, policies and solutions, and really inspire change through collaboration and influence. And I feel like a good place to start is why did we do the research? And what we found was that actually Black girls hold some of the most positive attitudes towards sport and exercise. You know, as well as that, they're most likely to consider themselves sporty, as well as having really high aspirations in sport, way more than other girls from different ethnic groups. But what we found actually was there's a disconnect between these attitudes and aspirations and their actual participation. So actually, Black girls are the least likely ethnic group to be meeting daily physical activity requirements. And we know as well, on top of this, that, you know, teenage girls' mental health and well-being is in decline. But specifically for Black girls, they're more likely to feel lonely, they have lower life satisfaction, you know, they even lack trust in others. And this is what we know sport and exercise can combat. So really the bigger picture, you know, these girls aren't hard to reach. They're ready to reach, but we're just not reaching them. You know, we know, and they know, sport's really very important for their health and their fitness. They say it makes them feel happy, carefree, but as you can see, only 14% are active outside of school. So there's a real disconnect here. So I'm just going to go on to what life is like for a young Black girl in the UK today. And really, I think many of the problems that we go on to talk about is, you know, treating Blackness as a monolith, treating all of these communities as the same. And there are so many things that connect them. But at the same time, there are individuals with different identities, cultures, experience, and just lived realities. You know, so what life is like for a young Black girl day to day is actually quite hard, you know, to answer. But what we did identify is there are some common factors which, you know, really shape how, you know, they take part and they engage in sport. And this is what I'm going to talk about now. So the first theme is all around minoritisation. You know, how does it feel to be a part of a minority group? And according to the census, Black communities make up just 4% of the UK population. So what this means is, you know, where most of the systems, whether it's in school, it's in sport, or even wider society, are generally built around the needs of the majority, which is the white British. And for Black girls, this often means, you know, having to adapt to environments that aren't necessarily designed with them in mind, you know, and this can include them feeling like they have to change how they speak, how they dress, or even present themselves just to fit in these spaces. And even in these spaces and these systems that are meant to protect them, they can continue to experience quite high levels of discrimination, both because they're girls and because they're Black girls. And as you can see here on the top right, you know, half have experienced sexism in school and half have experienced racism in school. And as a result, 48% feel they've got to downplay just who they are in these settings. So it's not really a surprise, I would say, that many of the girls that we spoke to are searching for spaces where they feel they don't have to adapt, you know, where they feel they can be themselves, where they actually just get this real sense of true belonging. And what this really means within sport is many Black girls talked about craving and seeking spaces where they can feel this sense of belonging. So the second theme is around poverty. And, you know, whilst this doesn't impact all Black individuals, it certainly was a pressing reality for many of the girls we spoke to. And again, this actually isn't just about income, it's also about opportunity. And as you can see again on the top right, 32% of Black Londoners are currently living in poverty compared to just 17% of white residents. And actually over half of ethnic minorities are currently living in fuel poverty. And I think this really adds a flavour in showing how relevant poverty is for many Black families at the moment. And actually, these economic inequalities have been exacerbated massively from the cost of living. We've got Brexit, the pandemic, and also other global issues going on, such as the Ukraine war, all of which is really widening this inequality. And whilst these inequalities, they don't affect all Black communities the same, but what is clear, many of the girls are growing up and seeing leisure and sport as luxuries and not as a right. So when money and time's tight, things like extracurricular sport, it falls to the bottom of the priority list. So what this results in is fewer chances to try new things, fewer chances to move their bodies or simply enjoy being young. And I think for sport in particular, poverty underpins and amplifies the barriers that Black girls are facing. So the next theme I'm going to discuss is around ambition. And really, this is closely tied to the pressure for social mobility, especially for those families facing economic hardship. And this really shaped how many of the girls spent their time. So unlike many girls their own age, actually very few talked about, having downtime, spending time with their friends, socialising, those kinds of things. Whereas in fact, 52% said they spend most of their time studying and doing schoolwork, way more than any ethnic group of girls. And I think this really highlights how important academic success is for these girls and their families as well. And, whilst many credited their mums as key drivers, especially in their early sporting journeys, this could be finding clubs, arranging lifts, encouraging them to just stay involved even. But as GCSEs approach, the support shifts to education and that becomes the top priority. And here we saw that sport starts to be seen as a nice to have. It's something fun, it's something extra, it's not the essential. And I think this is really reflected in the 73% of girls who say their families value school over sport, because sport isn't seen as a viable career path. It doesn't lead the girls to success or financial security. So really what this means is for sport specifically, as girls reach the secondary school age, sport is often seen to compete with their studies. It doesn't contribute towards their success. So next I'm going to look at and talk around responsibilities in the home. And we know that Black girls are more likely to be living in multi-generational households, face economic hardship, grow up in single parent households, or even live with relatives with poorer health. And I think all of this really adds for the need for them to take on more responsibilities in the household, to support their family, to support their parents. And whilst gender stereotyping, it means girls across all backgrounds are often to be taking on these caring roles. For Black girls specifically, these expectations were really intensified by structural inequality. And actually our survey found that Black girls and boys were equally as likely to be expected to take on these household roles and these chores, but actually the Black girls were far more likely to be doing them. And really, I think the message here is it's not just about being asked, it's about being expected to carry the weight every day and how embedded it is in their daily reality. And these responsibilities, the girls talked about, they're not just practical, they're emotional, and they also take time. And as the girls get older, those demands grow and the time becomes more limited. Sport becomes one more thing that they have to drop. So the next theme I'm going to look around is adultification. And for those of you who haven't really heard of this concept before, essentially it involves Black girls being treated as adults rather than being afforded, the childhood freedoms in the same way as their white peers. And this bias happens outside the home. So Black girls are often seen as older, tougher, more emotionally independent than they really are. And this bias basically means that they're met with less care, less empathy, and also less protection. And as you can see on the top right, 61% say they're expected to act older than they are, and 65% feel people assume they don't need emotional support, which is just shocking. But this isn't just about personal prejudice. It's a systemic issue. It's rooted in racism. It's rooted in gender bias and stereotypes. But in the wider world outside of sport, research also shows that adultification bias can lead to harsher disciplines in schools, higher rates of exclusion, higher rates of criminalisation, and also fewer safeguarding protections across all public areas of life. But actually what we found was that the impact goes deeper than that for the girls. And, when they're punished for being visible or passionate or expressive, when they're told they don't need emotional support, they start to believe it. They feel they have to be strong, composed, or even in control. And generally, a lot spoke of the cost of being seen as strong was often silence. And really what this means for sport is there are very, very few spaces where Black girls felt they could just be kids, be free and have fun, instead of really reinforcing this bias. So the final wider lives theme that I'm going to discuss today is around safety and trust. And, we know that safety is a real concern for all girls, but for Black girls, those concerns are often amplified by lack of representation of both Black adults and women. And many also spoke of, the heightened anxieties that their parents feel because of this lack of representation specifically. And this was rooted not only in the risks that they face as girls, but also things like racism, community violence, or even just the fear of being treated like an outsider in some spaces. And also wider research, really shows the concerns are grounded in their daily reality. Black women in the UK are more likely to experience gender-based violence and domestic abuse. They're also 4 times more likely to die in pregnancy and childbirth. And I think all of this really paints a picture of how safety and well-being can be compromised across every life stage for these women and girls. But actually, this also shapes how Black families assess risk. Even for something as routine as sport after school, for many girls, it's not just about physical safety, but also it's around trust. Can they trust whether their child will be understood, will be protected from racism, or even just feel like they belong in that space? So for sport, this really means, being out in the world after school is a risk, which is only taken if adequate protections are in place, if the space is known, trusted, and is it really worth it? So underlying all of these themes we've just discussed is the constant presence of oppression, discrimination, and inequality. And really, this sits behind all of the stories that I'm going to discuss now. And I think Layla puts it really powerfully. Racism, honestly, is just the foundation for the difference of the way we feel and the opportunities presented to us. That is the foundation for everything, unfortunately. So next, I'm going to explore the barriers and challenges that negatively impact Black girls' experiences in sport more specifically. So the first theme is around isolation. And really, this is how it feels, being the only Black girl there, whether that's be on the pitch, in the building, or even just in the club more widely. And this really builds on what we explored earlier about identity and belonging. Because beyond the pressure to fit in, many Black girls also are feeling this emotional weight of standing out in these spaces where they're just not represented. So even though we know, for example, that one of the drivers for sport with Black girls is friendship and this connection, camaraderie, but actually being the only one who looks like them can actually bring the opposite feelings of exclusion and isolation. And actually, the girls told us they often feel invisible when their needs are overlooked, yet hyper-visible when their presence is scrutinised. They felt their bodies more closely watched, their actions more harshly judged. And from an early age, they're taught that being seen doesn't always mean being understood. And this really reflected in how they feel. So, for example, 27% said they feel they don't belong when they're the only Black girl who there, or 28% feel isolated and lonely. So I think with this in mind, it's really not surprising that many Black parents are worried about racial bias, these emotional harms essentially from being the only girl there. And for Black girls and their families, you know, this psychological safety, it's not something that can be assumed. It really has to be earned, because, you know, for them, feeling safe is conditional and it's not a guarantee. And I think, as you can see from the right two quotes here, a lot of this is underpinned again by a lack of representation in these sports. For example, on my team, there are not many girls of colour, very, very few. So even though it's not intentional, I just feel sort of separated. It feels like I'm not a part of the same group that everyone else is a part of. So the next barrier we're going to look at is around hair and aesthetics, and really it's around how self-expression can become a barrier to sport for these girls. So, you know, we're talking hair, nails, lashes. You know, these are more than style choices. And what we found was that for many black girls in particular, they're a way to belong. You know, they show solidarity and it helps them feel a part of a group where, you know, they are this minority. But in sport, what empowers them outside can become a barrier. So even elite athletes have really spoken openly about this in the wider media. For example, rugby player Simi Pam, she lost so much hair due to friction, she had to shave her head to start over. And we've also got cyclist Laurie Sharp shared how she had to remove helmet padding just to make it fit her hair. So really sacrificing safety just because the equipment wasn't designed for her in mind. And these stories were so echoed by what we heard with the girls we spoke to. You know, whilst actually very few explicitly named hair as a barrier to sport within our survey, it was actually a central part of the conversations within all the focus groups. And I think what this really tells us is how managing hair has become so normalised for these girls. But actually, in fact, hair influences how and when they show up, what activities they avoid, and how confident they feel, especially when they're the only black girl on the team. And actually, as you can see on the top right here, that extends into adulthood. You know, 1 in 3 black women avoiding physical activity due to hair concerns. I think this just really highlights what a prevalent issue it is for all black women and girls. So the next theme I'm going to look at is around stereotyping and sports typecasting. And, you know, for many black girls, stereotypes and cultural misunderstanding generally can mean that confidence is often read as aggression, passion as attitude, or, you know, sometimes they spoke of emotion as immaturity. I mean, and as you can see in the top right here, 32% say they are frequently penalised when they express themselves in sport. And in fact, actually, one stakeholder told us that racism is so normalised in sport, it often goes unchallenged. And the girls we spoke to definitely felt that as well. But what we actually saw as well is when black girls feel truly seen and supported by adults in sport, they're far more likely to stay. You know, trust becomes this protective factor. For example, when black girls trust their coach, they stay engaged. The relationship is so strong, but trust shields them from this emotional weight, the stereotypes, the adultification and the judgment. Whereas if trust is not there to begin with, or they feel unsupported, avoidance is way more likely for these girls. But actually, it's not just about how they're treated, it's about how they're boxed in. You know, the girls we spoke to mentioned being steered into certain roles, or, you know, these black sports purely based on assumptions around speed and strength. You know, in fact, half said they frequently experience people assuming they're going to be good at certain sports purely because of their race. And for girls, we know that sport already offers fewer choices than it does for boys, but for black girls in particular, typecasting adds this other layer. You know, it's discouraging exploration and it's draining joy from something that actually should be freeing. So the next theme is around seriousness. And really this is, as sport becomes more structured, you know, the performance driven, we found many black girls start to disengage. And, you know, this isn't because they lack ambition, or it's not because they dislike competition either. You know, we actually found that black girls enjoy competition more than any other ethnic group of girls. But what we found, it's because the joy and the social connection begin to fade. So for girls already balancing all these responsibilities at home, sport can start to feel like another demand or a pressure, rather than this release or this routine, this part of life, often as it is for boys. And I think this is really reflected in the fact only 11% are taking part in organised sport in the week, compared to a quarter of boys. But, you know, despite this family encouragement, there is this disconnect from what Black girls hope to get out of sport, or what they want from sport, and what sport is actually offering them. You know, when it's framed as an all or nothing, we're losing the girls who simply want to stay active, the girls who want to have fun or just feel a part of something without this constant pressure. And I think this is really reflected in the 77% of Black girls who say informal activities are for people like them. You know, these activities actually offer autonomy, flexibility, freedom, choice, all of which can fit into their busy, pressured daily lives. So really, to keep them engaged, sport needs to stay fun. It needs to be flexible and freeing, you know, while still offering clear performance pathways for those who want to go further. So the final theme that I'm going to explore with you today is around the lack of policy intervention and local provision. So we know that society often places less value on girls' participation in sport, and that's even more true for Black girls. You know, our stakeholders reflected that sport is frequently positioned as a solution for Black boys. You know, it's linked to crime prevention or community intervention, but Black girls are often left out this narrative. You know, they're seen as coping, resilient, or just not at risk. And I think, as you can see here, that's even echoed in community. 63% say their community encourages boys more than girls to take part. And, you know, as we heard earlier, adultification plays a role here too. So when girls are assumed to be strong, self-sufficient, their needs are going unmet, you know, yet ignoring the need for physical activity is contributing to this growing mental health crisis among teenage girls, despite 67% saying it's very important for their mental health. But even when programs do exist, you know, we found they're often short term, running a few months, they spark a bit of interest, you know, they begin to build this trust and then they disappear. And I think this stop-start cycle, you know, it gives girls a glimpse into the possibility, only just to take it away. And the structural barriers just make things worse on top. You know, poor program design, you've got your upper age limits and your lack of local options, which are all limiting access. And really, for those in financial hardship, something as simple as getting to a regional club is just near impossible. So it's rarely actually one single event that pushes a girl out of sport and physical activity. You know, it's cumulative weight of the everyday challenges, these unmet needs, and also the missed signals of belonging. And without the right support, the girls, it really described how these moments stack up. You know, they're eroding trust, they're narrowing her experience, and eventually driving her out of a space that was meant to lift her up. But if Black girls are to have a fair chance, we really need to recognise the layered reality of their daily lives and act to remove the barriers and the risks of disengagement at every level. So the system must evolve, and that's not just to include all girls, but to understand and meet the diverse needs of everyone. You know, Black girls shouldn't have to feel grateful for being in the room. They shouldn't be expected to adapt to spaces that weren't designed or built for them. I think Sasha puts it beautifully. You need to change. You need to find a way to change so I don't have to change myself. You know, every time a Black girl walks through your door, she is placing your trust in, you know, her trust in you, despite everything that came before that. You know, and this trust needs to be earned and protected and honoured, and that will take time. So I'm just very briefly going to move on to the solutions, and these are around the practical solution and recommendations to really help us engage and retain these girls. So if we want Black girls to thrive in sport, which I hope we all do, we need to create spaces that are joyful, flexible, and touching on that trust again, we need to build trust. You know, this means giving girls room to be themselves, whether that's how they speak, how they wear their hair, or even just how they pray. It means valuing them. You know, it's not just about their performance, it's who they are as people. It's about going to where they are, making sport safe, making sport accessible and genuinely welcoming. And when girls start to disengage, don't let her slip away. Show her she matters and ask what she needs. And just one more slide. Oh, I can't see my. Oh, there we go.
I think it may have jumped.
Oh, yeah, there we go. There we go. And just obviously the don'ts. We also just need to unlearn very harmful habits and unconscious biases that we may hold. You know, stop treating them as older than they are. Stop pushing black girls into stereotypes and stop staying silent in the face of microaggressions, which we actually know aren't that micro, nor are they that rare. Because if we want black girls to stay in sport, we have to show through action that they belong. And that is everything. So thank you for listening. Obviously that was a very whistle-stop tour into a lot of findings. So our full report is actually coming out on the 19th of May. So please do have a look and have a read and share it within your networks. And you can find that on our website. But yeah, thank you again.
Great, thank you, Meg. That was fantastic, really insightful research there. So thank you. And that was going to be one of my questions. So that's great that the full report's going to be available on the 19th. Did you say? Great. So and we will share these slides. So they really nicely kind of broken down and fantastic recommendations. So thank you. If people do have questions, are you able to put any questions in the chat at the moment, and we'll come back to those just to make sure we get through kind of our next content and next fantastic speaker. So please do put any questions in. Meg might be able to answer them as we move on, but we're now going to hand over to Tasha. So thank you so much. And are you taking over the screen now? Are you sharing your screen? Oh, thank you. So yeah, we have Tasha Thompson now from, oh, actually, sorry, excuse me. I think we've got one Slido. Apologies. We've got just one Slido in between. So Kirsty, did you want to move on to the Slido question? Just another bit of interaction. Hasn't come up yet. So if you can get your phones out again, hopefully there will be a slide showing up in a minute.
Sorry, I'm just having some technical issues. Bear with me.
Thanks.
Is that sharing?
All I can see is Meg's last slide.
Okay, hold on. Because I was very aware Tasha's got a video in her, so I was trying to make sure that we would have the sound for that one.
That's all right. While you're finding it, the question is, if you could change one thing about how sport or physical activity is delivered to black girls, what would it be? So if you can think, if you could check, so if it doesn't come up, we can put it in the chat, but if you could change one thing about how sport, physical activity is delivered to black girls, what would it be? So you can start thinking, and hopefully Kirsty will get that on the screen shortly.
Yeah, bear with me. It is behaving. I'm just getting to it. Hold on.
Lots of great feedback as well in the chat there for you, Meg.
Okay, here we go.
Brilliant. I think it's about to come up. There we go. So if people are able to get their phones out again, you've got the QR code, and hopefully that question will come up onto your phone. But Andrew, thank you. Co-production of the core offer. Yeah, absolutely. That's hugely important. Co-design and co-production is essential and not done enough. Making sport free, breaking down some further barriers. Yeah, I'll let people just log into that and give you a minute or two. Yeah, black girl only spaces. Changing equipment and safety to be inclusive for all. This is great, thank you. Oh, I can see we've got 6 people typing. Offering them what they want, creating safe spaces, getting them to be them without any barriers, providing sport beyond year 11, education to sport and physical activities to providers to make it inclusive for all. Yeah, that's really key. And I'm not sure, Meg, if there's much training out there in this space for sport and physical activity providers. So that's a really good.
There's actually very little.
Okay, that's interesting. It's really a gap. Taster sessions, inclusive coaching and leadership, coaches who really understand the needs and barriers. Again, kind of that lack of education. Somebody's put a link in the chat about some good practice. Thank you. Great, some really good points there. Thank you everyone for contributing. It's also really useful for us at Get Berkshire Active to kind of reflect on these. I would love for sport to become more accessible financially, but also supported more by families, more teams locally with the majority of ethnic girls in teams, coaches from ethnic backgrounds. Again, learning what makes girls feel safe in environments, providing fun and meaningful places to be. Yeah, another one around knowledge, improving knowledge of PE staff and peers. That's something we probably need to look at, Kirsty, in terms of some training for clubs and providers in this space. Yeah, there's lots around education. Thank you. This is really useful. Okay, I think got one more person typing. I'll just let that one come through and then we'll move on. Higher presence in different sports. Our youth club, badminton, is really popular amongst females who attend. Also, sports like archery would be great. Yeah, absolutely. Just different sports, trying different things. Thank you, everyone, for those contributions. I think the typing has stopped now, but if there's anything further you want to add, please just add it to the chat and we can move on.
Tasha, you should have control, hopefully. So if you hover sort of bottom left-hand corner of your screen and then just click, and then hopefully you'll see the arrows. So if you click once, and then there you go. Fab.
Thank you, Tasha.
You're muted. Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tasha Thompson, and I am the founder of Black Girls Do Run UK, which is a running community created 6 years ago to inspire, motivate, and encourage more Black women to run. So I myself have been a runner since school, really. I've been a runner, and I carried on running a little while after school and started entering running events and running at my local gym, but didn't really see anybody that looked like me, and had a kind of strange incident at a running event with a friend, and was inspired to start this community to encourage more women that look like me to run. And one of the things, leading into what Meg was saying about typecasting, one of the things I'm always questioned about is well, there's lots of Black women at elite level running, which is true because we have lots of sprinters, heptathletes, and there's great East African long distance runners, but that's not who Black Girls Do Run UK is aimed at. We're aimed at like grassroots runners, everyday women, just wanted to be active, to improve their mental health, their physical health, and just lead a healthy lifestyle, really. So it's not aimed at elite runners. So I'll tell you a bit more about me, because to tell you the story of Black Girls Do Run UK, I have to start with me. But hang on, the slide's not moving. Okay, so I'm Tasha Thompson. I'm a mother of two. I've got a 17-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old son. And this presentation will really cover the start, where we are now, and the future of Black Girls Do Run UK. And I hope you all learn something from it. And although it is aimed at women, one of the things that we wish to do in the future is to target girls. And because many of the women in Black Girls Do Run UK, we have daughters as well. So we're also being an example to the young girls growing up. So why representation matters? So it's well known that there is a lack of Black women, Black people even, at running events, and the running community as a whole has been working really hard to do something about that. And there was a Sport England report, I don't remember the year, called Sports for All Stats, states that Black women are probably the least active of regular women, Asian women even less so. Representation is powerful because if you don't see someone who looks like you doing things, you can feel like that sport or that activity isn't for you. So it is really important to see people who look like you, who lead lives like you, doing the thing. And the thing here is running. So it really is true. It's a bit of a cliche statement, but you can't be what you can't see. But saying that, somebody has to start something, and it just takes sometimes just one person for it to grow. And Black Girls Do Run UK started with just 3 of us, really. So myself and 2 friends who lived nearby each other had daughters the same age, and we would drop our daughters off to school and we go for a run every Tuesday morning. And from there it was started, and it's just grown into this really powerful community today. So how it started is 6 years ago, my friend and myself were at a running event that was 16 miles long, but there was also the option to do the 8-mile version. We would do the 16. See, we ran past a marshal volunteering and we felt like we had gone slightly the wrong way. So we ran back to her and said to her, well, excuse me, are we going the right way? She gave us a really blank look and asked, are you running the race? Now, when you're enter a running event, you're given like a race bib with the race name in it and a number. We both were wearing those and we ran up to her, and we'll never know for sure, but she gave us such a blank look, like almost like she couldn't believe we were taking part in the event. And that just prompted a conversation between us, because we still had like a good 8 miles left to cover, about why she gave us that look and the lack of representation at running events. So I was quite aware of the running community, Black Girls Run in America, who've done amazing work across all the states to encourage more Black women to run, and said, well, maybe we need something like that here. Left it there for a little while, but it's one of those moments that kind of stay with you and kind of churn away in your mind. So Black Girls Run, as I was just saying, in America, they've done great work. And I thought, let me see if there's anything like that here in the UK. So I've done a few Google searches, searched around, didn't see anything. So decided to start Black Girls Do Run UK, inspired by Black Girls Run USA, with an Instagram page, which really just charted the running activities of myself and 2 friends. And from that little seed, it has grown into what you see today, which is, so we've been going 6 years. We are now affiliated with England Athletics, and we became a charity in 2023. So it's been a really kind of beautiful organic journey that's grown, and from other women seeing us, they want to be a part of it because they see women that look like them. And we've had so much success in our group. So we're over probably 100+ women in our community. We've got women doing marathons, park run, starting to run ultra marathons. We're just all distances, all kind of runs abroad, runs local. We've got women starting out by just running around the blocks. There's a whole like melting pot of different levels, different abilities, and we're mainly London based, but because we have like quite a strong online community operated via an app called Halo, we're able to communicate wherever we are. So we've got some women up north in Birmingham, even as far as Newcastle. So our missions and values are community first. So we're very strong on community. Community is like at the heart of everything we do. All paces are welcome, because one of the things, what a stereotype of being a Black woman, a Black person, is that you're going to be a sprinter, you're going to be fast, and you're going to be an excellent runner. So that in itself is often a barrier, because if you're not going to be elite at something, it's almost like, well, I'm not going to bother with it. But one of our mottos is that no one is left behind. So we make sure that nobody feels like whatever pace they run at, that it's too slow to attend our runs. So we make sure that whoever's at the back, there's somebody with them, or if there's not somebody with them, we'll circle back and we'll join them so that they're never alone. And our lived experiences matter. So we have a group where anything and everything is shared, and those lived experiences are really important, because whereas in a group, which is not maybe not a safe space for Black women, that experience would get swallowed up, or maybe they wouldn't have the confidence to share it. So things that are shared, like once someone in our community did a run outside of London, and all the children were high-fiving everybody, but she noticed that the children were high-fiving her, and that was quite upsetting for her. So she was able to share that in our community, say, like the children put their hands away when they saw me coming and didn't want to high-five me. So, we were just reassured her and said, like, it's probably not the children's fault, it's probably coming from their parents. And it was an area where there aren't a lot of Black people. And it's just those things where in another setting, they might get washed over a little bit, or even seem to be like imaginary. But in our community, we can really kind of lean in, support each other, reassure each other. And then we've also had a lot of incidents where safety has been a real issue, and we're able to reassure her. And what we always do, we always encourage anybody who has a safety issue to report to the police. And it always seems like almost pointless reporting to the police. And in some ways it is, because it's highly unlikely that that person's going to be caught or prosecuted or anything. But what it does do, that is, if that perpetrator is doing that regularly, it does help to build up a pattern so that the police can maybe eventually see. So that's what we also hot on encouraging. So it's very much, it's about running, but it's become more than running, because we're much more than a running group, we're a running family. And then we've got the women who've got daughters, and they see their mums running and they want to run, they want to wear Black Girls Do Run shirt, and it's just wonderful to see. So what do we do? Well, we run, obviously, but our runs are social. Our runs are social. We talk, we laugh, we stop, we take selfies. We do other meetups, like we'll do a Christmas do. We've had like maybe 25 women take part in the London Marathon. So we always do a meetup where we go to a restaurant and bring our medals and celebrate. We take part in lots of virtual challenges. So those who aren't maybe outside of London, who can't come to like our regular meetups, that they can feel included in things. So for one of the things we've done recently was for Lent, we did, rather than give something up, we done like 40 days of gratitude. So we had like a prompt, and every day we shared something that we're grateful for. And that experience really kind of, it enabled everybody to open up, and we really kind of got to know each other a little bit more. So it was really lovely. Because we're a charity as well, two recent things we've done is that we've launched a kit library. So we've got like quite a few like budding ultra runners in our group, but some of the ultra running kits, like really expensive, like good quality head torches, are like over £100, and you may only need to use it once. We've got walking poles, bum bags, race vests. So we've got a few things like that in our kit library. We've used it, we launched it a couple of months ago. We've used it about 4 times actually, which is really good. So someone just fills in a form, requests what they want, how long they want it for, and we meet up with them if they're local to us, or we know we're going to see them, or we'll post it out to them. And then we also have the support fund, which we've been able to support a couple of women to get new running trainers and to enter running events that they wanted to but couldn't quite afford. So it's really important for us to not just support running, but to be able to remove some of those barriers that prevent women from running. And then we've had lots of partnerships, and we do lots of advocacy. We've worked with This Girl Can. We are partners with Sweaty Betty. We've done lots of work with Gymshark. And by doing that, because we are a group that are solely for Black women, but we get involved with partnerships so that we are involved in the running community as a whole. And one of the biggest things towards our success has been raising visibility. So we have a strong social media presence. if you check out our Instagram page, Black Girls Do Run UK, we post all our runs, everything we've been up to, and we've been featured in lots of publications. So as you can see, the Women's Running magazine front cover, I think that was 2021. I'm there too. And we've been in Runner's World. We've been in, oh my gosh, so many things. I can't remember the names of all of them now. And what was really nice that we've been used in our media studies, case studies in school. So a couple of women in our group, their daughters have used this magazine actually for their case studies for representation as well, which is, I thought was really quite interesting. So community impact. So we're mainly London based, but we have women all over. And one of our long-term goals is to expand beyond London. And one of the things that we're really proud of is, probably we're all aware of Park Run that happens every Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, all over the country, all over the world, in fact. Well, we've got so many women into Park Run, into going out for a run Saturday morning. And the beauty of Park Run is that Park Run is not a race, so, and nobody can ever be last at Park Run because they have the tail walker, and the tail walkers always last. And they also push running, and Park Run finishing times are actually increasing because more people are embracing it, and the finishing times are not getting quicker, they're becoming longer, which is great because then that means a wider range of people are taking part of that can cover 5 kilometers in all different times. It's not all about being fast, which can be very off-putting, and it is a barrier for many people. And we get really good member feedback. That's one of the photos that says, you know, that we're not just an exclusive group, there are true running sisters, support for all levels. Thank you so much, family, Black Girls Do Run UK. So we've got lots of feedback like that on Google. I didn't want to put them all in. And then if you watch this, I'm praying that this works. This will just sum up Black Girls Do Run UK. Black women who are just running for their physical health, mental health. You don't see any representation of that. And I always noticed at races that there was a lack of Black women there. Black Girls Do Run UK is trying to make a change.
Turning up at races now and seeing 15, 16 strong Black women is something that I actually didn't think I would see. I think to be seen makes people want to belong.
Doesn't matter how fast, how slow you are, what you're wearing, what you're not wearing. We are open and we're there to support everybody.
Come on, let's go.
No one is left behind.
We had a guy throw a bottle. The glass actually hit the back of my leg. We're lucky that we had each other.
We often do what we call virtual runs. So you might not be physically with someone, but we'll have someone in our earphone running with us.
I guess think about what you would need to feel safe and supported, and that will filter out to everybody else.
Girls.
Did everybody see that?
Yes, we could all see and hear it. Thanks, Tisha. That was great. Great video.
Oh, I can't get to the next slide now. That is not the next slide. That's just YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh, let me go. Can anybody see the next slide, or is it just me? Is it still the
No, I
YouTube?
can't at the moment. It's still showing.
Okay.
Don't know if Kirsty wants to take control.
I'm trying. Hold on.
Oh.
I'm impressed so far, anyway.
Yeah, because it won't let me move it on either. I suppose because it's on YouTube. I can't see there. I'm wondering what's the quickest way for me to do it without. I might have to.
Back out. Is that video? That's a video available on the Girl Can website, I presume, Tasha, that people.
Yeah,
can...
it's on YouTube as well. Aha!
Yeah,
Here we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the challenges that we still face are just the challenges that we faced in the beginning, and that any group or any cultural background face, and that's cultural barriers, stereotypes, and participation gaps. And that is where the work is needed. And groups like ours, so one of the things we're often accused of is excluding people. And I often ask people to reframe that and think of it differently, as like, and I say, yes, I 100% agree with you. We are excluding people, but we are excluding people to include more people. So the more different types of people we can include in sport is a win for sport, because everybody who plays a sport has to buy something for a sport. And it's not just about buying, but we all runners, if we've got more people running, they buy watches, they enter races, they buy running gel. So it's a win for the sport. So groups like ours that are just nurturing a small niche group are really important, because what happens, they come into that group, they're coming quite timid, not very confident, or they say things like, well, I'm not a real runner. Then slowly they grow in confidence, and it's almost like you're starting off with a caterpillar, they turn into a butterfly, and they just are set free into whatever sport they are. And it's a really beautiful development to see. And it's only a good thing for sport. It's not a bad thing. So that's what I always ask people to reframe it as, like, we are excluding people, but in the long run, it's including more people. And that is what is needed. Can I move along? So in the future, what is our future? Well, our future is to continue doing what we're doing, really, but we want to do more workshops. We want to get involved in more partnerships, possibly international expansion into Europe, not to the USA, because USA have got Black Girls Run already. And just to have a broader vision for change, and to eventually want to tap into the girls. So, and work from the bottom up, and work with girls that are, just not confident. Because I've got a daughter who's 17 who was sporty, actually, but that thing in 2020 happened, and she gave up all her sport and hasn't taken up any since. So the teenage years are such crucial years to continue girls in sport. And once girls leave school, that is often their end of sport, because they don't have that PE lesson that they have to do anymore. So it's also about, what can we do to continue that journey of sport? And I've got my daughters now in sixth form, and they don't do anything to encourage sport. And I've spoken to teachers like, why don't you offer them, like, I don't know, can't you ask the local gym to see if they can give you discounted rates, or at lunchtime or something, just to encourage them to continue sport. But yeah, I'm here for the long term, and I'm here to promote the change. And hopefully we will make a difference, and together we'll make a difference. So how to get involved with Black Girls Do Run UK, or join our runs is one of them. Become our partner, or support us with advertising us, running with us, collaborating with us in events, and spread the word. If you Google Black Girls Do Run UK, everything will come up. We're on all social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, or Twitter, whatever it's called these days, and even TikTok. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. And does anyone have any questions? We can pop them in the chat.
Thanks, Tasha. Sorry again, just my cursor seems to do something funny when someone else is controlling the slides. That was, yeah, hugely inspirational. Thank you. And I love that video. I've watched it so many times because I love it so much. And what a great community, hey? It sounds amazing. So thank you for giving up your time to talk to us today. It's, yeah, really very much
thank you for having me.
Right, so if anyone's got any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. I'm going to attempt to find the slides. Okay, so we have got just to kind of help keep you engaged, keep you awake. We've got another Slido poll here, just to, after, I guess, listening to Meg and Tasha, is there anything kind of at this point that you feel like, what is one action you have taken or could take to make sports, physical activity more inclusive for Black girls? Is there anything that kind of, at this point in time, appreciate you're going to kind of want to go away and digest some stuff, but is there anything that kind of has struck you so far? Or maybe you're already all over this and you can kind of teach us a thing or two as well. I can see some people are busy typing. Again, the Slido, use the QR code or slido.com and use the code. Create awareness, communicating with ethnic minorities and collaborate. Brilliant, great start, thank you. Yeah, creating safe spaces, that's coming out quite strongly, isn't it, in terms of what we've heard so far. Yeah, speak to, listen to them, understand what they would like to do, when, how, what. Yeah, that co-design is, yeah, really important. More representation. Again, yeah, I feel like that's been a key takeaway for me as well. Brilliant. Already a connection coming your way, Sasha. Amplifying voices and experiences. Yeah, that lived experience thing. Yeah, sharing these key learnings and information with relevant partners. Yeah, definitely that'll be a role for us to take away. Sharing best practice, opening up conversations, support for those keen to take on leadership roles and coaching roles. These are all brilliant. Thank you. Keep them coming. I can stay here for a little bit longer. Someone would like to go away, learn more, and how can be a part of a positive experience. Brilliant, thank you. Research awareness training to share with clubs, providers of sport and physical activity to support better representation. Yes, sharing contacts with Tasha later from the Civil Service Sports Council, brilliant. Support platforms that share stories, achievements, challenges faced by Black girls in sports, highlighting role models, breaking stereotypes and advocating for inclusive policies. Brilliant. These are all great. Thank you so much. Brilliant ideas. So I am going to take us through the last section and I'm going to talk you through some research and insight that's recently been published by This Girl Can. So if you haven't heard of This Girl Can before, definitely after today, give it a Google. It's a Sport England campaign which is about empowering women to be more active, regardless of their shape, size, age, ability and backgrounds. So I'm kind of doing this on their behalf, if you like. It's quite new information, so bear with me as I attempt to kind of share it with you. But we will share all of the slides afterwards, because it will be a bit of a whistle-stop tour. But yeah, you can obviously have the slides afterwards and take some time to digest the information. So This Girl Can has accomplished so much over the past 10 years. And none of it would have been possible without the support of many organisations that make up our sport and physical activity sector. Across the industry, we're seeing lots of fantastic efforts to help women and girls get active. However, in the last Insight report from This Girl Can, it's found that only 1 in 10 women on lower incomes feel they completely belong in the world of physical activity. And 1 in 6 women have felt so unwelcome in an activity setting that they never return to that type of activity. So those statistics highlight the need for continued action, because no woman should feel like she doesn't belong in sport and physical activity. So over the next 3 years, This Girl Can has pulled together 4 overarching objectives. One, to decrease inactivity levels, encouraging those who aren't active yet to try some form of being active. To increase activity levels, encouraging women who are a little bit active to be more active. Positively changing attitudes, increasing the number of women from all backgrounds who feel that sport and physical activity is a place for them. And lastly, build a collaborative movement, so supporting people like yourselves who create opportunities and reasons for women and girls to get active by providing inspiration, tools and assets. And we've already had some of those today, for sure. So as we mentioned at the start, this kind of insight and data that's coming out isn't specifically about Black women. The audiences are broader than that, but it's a key audience within there, so we felt it was worth sharing it with you. So This Girl Can have taken an intersectional approach to identifying the audiences they will be focusing on. Using statistical methods, they establish the factors of inequality that lead to some women achieving more minutes of activity per week than others. So this next chapter of This Girl Can unapologetically focuses on supporting women from underrepresented backgrounds to get active, women who face the greatest barriers to physical activity yet have the most to gain. And you'll hear a bit more about them as we delve into the insight. So while the campaign is for all women, their focus will be to engage with all women on lower incomes and who additionally are from South Asian Muslim communities, Black communities, women aged 55 years or over, and pregnant women and or have a child under 1 year old. Taking a further intersectional approach, the campaign will also need to meet the needs of our disabled women as long as our women with a long-term health condition. We know that every woman is unique and much more than just a set of characteristics, so to reflect that, This Girl Can describe their audience as our women. This doesn't mean that you can only use This Girl Can if you're directly supporting one of those audiences. You know the women you are trying to reach best, and the insight and resources that are being provided can be used to support anyone who needs advice, guidance and motivation to get active. So before diving in, here's a bit of context. With This Girl Can's sharper focus on its new priority audiences, a significant amount of research was carried out to deepen the understanding of these women. The goal was to ensure an insight-led approach to engaging them and meeting their needs, and the research itself was broad and comprehensive, but guided by 3 main objectives, and you can see them there. To understand the scale and range of barriers preventing these women from getting active, to uncover what would motivate them to be more active despite these barriers, and to identify the types of support and solutions needed to help them start and sustain their activity levels. And there were 4 key phases to the research that was conducted. So you can see the little timeline there along the bottom. Sorry, the text is really small on that bit. There was initial qualitative and quantitative research. This was carried out by a creative agency called 23Red as part of their original pitch. And it was during that phase that the idea of this theme, described as belonging starts with inclusion first, emerged. The second phase was an online community study, and that involved 26 low-income women taking part in a qualitative research method. They logged onto an online platform for about 30 minutes a day and had a series of tasks, answered questions, interacted with each other and shared multimedia, which made it a really highly engaging approach. The next part was follow-up interviews, so 12 participants from those 26 were interviewed in more depth to build on the insights that had been gathered so far. And the last part was a large-scale survey conducted to quantify the findings from the qualitative research and to identify differences across audience segments. The survey included 1,000 nationally representative low-income women, plus an additional 250 from each of those 4 specific target audiences that we've mentioned previously. So overall, the robust sample size ensures confidence in the findings, providing a strong foundation for shaping future strategies. So a little bit now in terms of the context and background on the lives of our women. For many of our women, quite a lot of the time, life can be quite challenging. They've been affected quite hard by the rise in the cost of living over the last few years, and it's common for them to report that they're struggling to cover things like the cost of bills, groceries, and other essentials. They also work long unsociable hours, have household and childcare responsibilities, and this can all lead to a situation where they feel tired and low energy quite a lot of the time. And actually, many of them perceive exercise to be depleting rather than restorative. So they don't want to expend what little time they do have on something that they think will make them feel even more tired. And many of them also say that the only spare time they get is at the end of the day, and they don't want to be going out exercising at 9 o'clock at night. The key takeaway here is that our women are generally just not feeling great. 41% of them say they sleep poorly. The same percentage say they have good energy levels. Under half say their physical health is good, and over half say that pain limits what they can do. And on top of that, we know our women are quite time poor with jobs, childcare, and household responsibilities. So understandably, exercise often doesn't feel like a feasible option for them, but we know exercise could potentially benefit these women more than most other groups, because we know that it has the potential to give you more energy, to help you sleep better, and to improve your mood and mobility, and so on. So it's obviously a bit of a shame that those who would most benefit from the exercise don't currently feel included and like exercises for them. So in terms of our kind of our communication, we need to factor this in and remember our women are tired and sometimes in pain, and maybe consider how we can centre messaging around more gentle ways to get restarted. So now to have a look through some of the data around this sense of belonging. So when our women were asked to what extent they feel like they belong in the world of physical activity, a lot of them are basically in the middle, with the average score on a scale of 1 to 5 being a 3. So our women generally feel neither included or excluded. They feel ambivalent and indifferent. And ambivalence is a problem because it's one of the main reasons our women might think about becoming more active, but then don't actually take that leap into changing their behaviour and starting to sustain a new activity. So as you can see on the slide, only 11% of our women feel like they completely belong, and we'd obviously want this number to be significantly higher. And then we think we'd see more people who are thinking about being more active taking that leap. So a little bit here in terms of the barriers when it comes to getting active. A lot of these might resonate with you in terms of conversations you've been having in your own kind of networks around barriers. So probably kind of no huge surprise in terms of the kind of the types of barriers that are coming out. But in this scenario, cost came out as the top barrier. And yeah, we know there's no getting away from it, especially given the rise in cost of living. But if all exercise was free, you would likely still have a high proportion of inactive people in England. So in support of that, for example, we know walking is generally free, but obviously that's an activity still that lots of people don't do regularly. So that indicates that barriers go well beyond simple financial ones, and there are cultural and structural barriers that run much deeper. And as you can see on this graph, there are lots of other common barriers such as lack of energy, confidence, body not moving like it used to. And there are differences between those subgroups we've mentioned too. So for pregnant women and new mums, it's childcare. For our Asian Muslim women, clothing. And for our black women, hair care. Women face evolving barriers to physical activity based on age, life stage and identity. So in their 20s, fear of judgment may be a key challenge, while in their 50s, physical limitations may take precedence. Intersectionality further shapes these barriers. So for example, Muslim and black women may experience different challenges compared to pregnant women. To foster inclusivity, messaging and programmes must be tailored to these diverse needs, empowering women to stay active while embracing changes in their abilities and exploring new, gentler activities. So a little bit here in terms of the motivators for our women. So this data highlights the reason why inactive women say they want to exercise. So we can see that the most common motivators are weight management, improving fitness, and improving physical health. Looking better is also a key factor. However, despite these intentions, many women we know still struggle to start or sustain activity. And then if you look at the lower numbers for reasons like I don't want to get physically active or because my doctor advised me to, suggests that external pressures alone aren't enough to drive that behaviour change. So this highlights an opportunity. While weight loss and aesthetics may be the initial drivers, we need to focus on helping women find deeper, more sustainable motivators to keep them engaged in physical activity. And while inactive women often see exercise as a way to lose weight or improve their appearance, active women view it as something that enhances their daily life, something that lifts their mood and makes them feel good. So that shift in perspective is crucial because it suggests that long-term participation in physical activity is less about those external goals, such as losing weight, and more about the immediate benefits of movement, such as boosting energy, reducing stress, and improving mental well-being. So if we want to support inactive women in becoming more active, we need to help reframe their view of exercise. So rather than focusing on long-term results, we should emphasise how movement can help them feel better today and make movement feel accessible, enjoyable, and rewarding in the moment, rather than something that has to be endured for future results. And while weight loss is often the first reason women think of when considering exercise, this perception actually shifts when they are presented with a broader range of benefits. So when asked what would truly motivate them to be more active, the top response isn't weight loss, it's actually better sleep. Quite powerful insight because it suggests that women are looking for tangible, immediate benefits that impact their daily lives. And then you can see there, following sleep, other top motivators include increased confidence and improved mental health, which aligns with what we see amongst active women. These findings reinforce the need to shift the conversation around exercise. So instead of focusing on long-term physical changes, we should highlight the immediate kind of feel-good effects of movement on both body and mind, followed by increased confidence and improved mental health. And when women were asked what types of activities they'd like to do, walking was the most common response, as shown here on the left. It's often the easiest way, as we all know, to get moving. However, looking beyond walking, clear differences emerge between audiences. So swimming, for example, is very popular among older women, but presents more barriers for Black and Asian Muslim women. Interestingly, though, when the idea of a dance or activity class in the pool was introduced, Black women responded very positively. These insights can help guide priorities based on the audiences and communities being engaged. Dance classes, especially those featuring cultural relevant music like soca and Afrobeats, are highly motivating for Black women, while family-focused activities are particularly appealing to Asian Muslim women and those with young children. So our inactive women often see exercise as something serious and feel they aren't fit enough to get started. Across all groups, they identified key components that would help them become more active. So enjoyment, this is kind of reinforced. Previous research shows that enjoyment is strongly linked to women staying active. Exercise needs to feel fun rather than something they have forced themselves through. The second one is community, seeing other women like them, whether that's in terms of cultural background, body type, fitness level, or life stage, is incredibly powerful. A supportive community, whether in person or online, gives them the motivation to keep going. We've obviously heard a lot about that from Tasha. The third one is guidance. Many women don't have a clear blueprint for getting active. They need support, not just in starting out, but also in managing soreness, adapting injuries, finding the right approach for their bodies. And lastly, suitability. Meeting women where they are now is key. They need gentle, beginner-friendly options designed for restarters rather than risking an intimidating all-levels class where they might feel out of place. Achievable goals, tailored support and convenient scheduling, like sessions after the school run or on a weekend mornings, can make all the difference. Our women want practical support to help get more physically active. 84% of our women want practical support and 82% want support on getting started. So this could include things like, as you can see there on the slide, childcare, transport, flexible timing and so on. And if it's help getting started, that's where maybe those taster sessions would be a better fit, or restarter only type classes, more gentle options will all help. Our women are often working off assumptions, historical knowledge or hearsay. So when they were set a discovery task, many of them found things they didn't actually know existed, such as free or low cost activities, or ones that were different, kind of at different levels that could meet their needs. Activities that were kind of drawn to them were walks in local parks, historical settings and forest bathing, online clips, activities for mum where baby could come too, exercise classes like Zumba, Pilates, and activities at the local swimming pool. Our women are currently not yet seeking out what is on offer to them locally. We need to bring the knowledge of what exists into their world. So how can we help? What are the possible kind of options, solutions? So there are 4 key things that can help our women get moving. Number 1, help our women to see exercise as restorative rather than depleting. So the emphasis should be on those immediate benefits such as improved sleep and mood. Secondly, making it easier to restart, promoting those activities that are accessible, fun, bite-sized and offer a supportive community. Number 3, help with their mindset. So our women need those kind of regular nudges and encouragement to help keep them engaged. And be as representative as possible in your communications. Representation means more than race. It's body types, skin tones, dress codes, and life stages. So as I said, this has come out quite recently, and in I think it's September time, there's going to be another push from This Girl Can nationally, and there's going to be a national advertising campaign. So that's where you might see those assets, if you've noticed them before, on kind of bus stations, train stations and so on. That will obviously all help to further kind of push the campaign and potentially use it locally as well. So a case of kind of watch this space really in terms of what's come out, and we can help circulate all of that information. Did anybody have any questions about any of that information that I've shared? I can't see anything, including the chat box right now, so Kathy, you might have to help.
Yeah, no problem. Can't see anyone. No one's put anything in the chat, Kirsty. See any hands raised?
Okay, fabulous. So we are nearly there. Looks like we're going to be able to give you back some of your time, which is brilliant. Okay, so a couple of Slidos here for you. So the first one, so if you can grab your phone, hopefully this will automatically pop up if you've already got it up. If not, again, just scan the QR code. What one thing will you do after today's webinar? Read. Great start. Brilliant, thank you. Lots around, yeah, reading, learning, promoting, educating. Thank you. Lots of great words. Raising awareness, brilliant. It's coming out as one, clearly. If there is a particular way that you kind of appreciate like in terms of how we share stuff with you, if you've got any particular ideas on that, feel free to pop that in a chat. You know, is us simply sending the slides sufficient, or are there any other kind of you know, a kind of more workshops, I guess, in terms of talking exactly about how we might apply some of this learning? Would that be helpful? If there's any kind of ideas like that, feel free to pop them in the chat. Okay, I will move us on. A couple more Slidos. If you can just hang in there to finish us off, that would be great. So hopefully now, same question as at the beginning. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to you to be able to support Black females to be more active? If you're having any problems with Slido, feel free to pop it in the chat, because I can see we've still got quite a few people in the room, which is great. So if you can pop a response in, it'd be really helpful. Thank you.
We have actually just got one question that's popped in the chat, Kirsty. What's currently available to access in Berkshire to support Black females to access sports? And I guess it's kind of, I suppose, what we're trying to do now in terms of kind of sharing insight and resources, and the This Girl Can research and findings, and there's lots of fantastic kind of resources on there. Is there anything you want to add?
I guess I was just trying to think about how, because I realised people can't come off mute to expand on the question. I was just trying to understand I was trying to think exactly what that question means. Does it mean what the local opportunities are, or is there what kind of resources are there for local organisations to be able to do that? Yeah, I guess you're right. A lot of it is around us hopefully providing some tools and guidance through these kind of platforms to do that. Or it might be a case of us kind of catching up separately and having a bit more of a chat about exactly what help is needed.
Sorry, I've been allowed to enable my mic. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi. My name's Marcia. So I really just wanted to know if there was anything currently happening within Berkshire for Black females. I understand that you're using this to launch something potentially for people, but is there anything that anybody online at the moment is actually already doing?
Yeah, great question. If anybody online is doing anything, feel free to share. Nothing that I'm aware of, Marcia, that's specifically for Black women that I've come across yet. But that's not to say that it isn't out there. But yeah, if anybody else is aware of anything, then feel free to share it on the chat. We'd definitely love to hear about that kind of thing. So one more question here. So again, the same as before, on a scale of 1 to 10 now, how confident are you in supporting Black females to be more active? And again, if there's anything in particular that you think might kind of boost this number, that you think we might be able to help with, or maybe other organisations within our network might be help with, again, feel free to pop any suggestions in the chat. Okay, I will move us on. So we are coming to the end now, and our kind of final request, if you like, is if you could spend a couple of minutes filling out our feedback form. So there's a QR code there, and hopefully Kathy's going to share the link in the chat as well if you would prefer to access it via a link. So yeah, like I say, we'll do a follow-up email in kind of coming days, and that will include the slide deck that we've been through today. So yes, spend some time obviously having a look through that, and feel free to share that with colleagues. Come back to us if you've got any specific questions or you want to kind of explore anything a bit more with us. Thank you so much for coming along today, and thank you obviously particularly to our speakers, to Meg and Tasha. We really, really appreciate you giving up your time today to talk to everybody. And yeah, that just leaves me to say, really enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for coming, and yeah, let's stay connected, and hopefully we'll see some of you again soon.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you to our speakers.